Welcome everybody. This is Hugh Massie, the CEO and founder of DNA Behaviour International. And today I'm delighted to be hosting another one of our Identity EQ conversations. And I've got Tim Southwell with me from Brisbane, Australia. And Tim works with Gryphon Psychology as a social worker. He does a lot of work with employees of large corporates, but also people generally addressing their mental health type issues. And Tim's been working with the DNA behaviour systems for the last 4 or so years. So welcome, Tim.
Hi, Hugh. Nice to see you.
So Tim, why don't you just tell me a little bit about your life and career background that's got you to this very important place of doing this social work at such a really in today's world, it's very critical work. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So this is, I guess, my second career. So social work and psychology is my second career. My initial qualification was as an environmental scientist in an environmental management degree. Straight out of school, went to uni, did an environmental management degree, and started working really quickly in the mining sector as an enviro. So managing the environmental impact of coal mines and mines in general and other big business. And I did that for about 8 years, but I've always had a bit of a desire to help people, to do some real kind of work. And I guess that's probably come from my Christian background and upbringing and faith. So I did enviro for 8 years, but always, would think about, imagine being the chaplain of a football team. Wouldn't that be great? You're helping these big high profile football players and sportsmen. I've always had that kind of inkling in my head. Anyhow, it was about 2011, 2012, I really started thinking, no, I'm gonna do it. So I quit the enviro work in about 2013 and started reskilling as a professional counsellor and as a therapist. 2014, I kicked that off. So I had to go back to uni, do 2 degrees to become qualified as a therapist in Australia. Yeah.
So that's actually a huge step to do that and to have the courage to follow your passion that way.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Now, I often say to people, I was in my mid-20s. I probably wouldn't do it if I was in my mid-30s, but back in maybe my 20s, I was a little bit more taking risks and a bit more starry-eyed in terms of my career and what I could do. Yeah.
But you went from a more of a, if you want to call it, a scientific, technical type career to dealing with people and very serious life and professional issues for them. From I suppose I call it a broader human behavioural level. In a way, it's not dissimilar from me going from being an accountant and wealth manager once upon a time to dealing with DNA behaviour. Something just happened that said to me, I need to be in this area. And so what was it for you? Was there something, I know you're passionate about social work, the mental health issues, the human behaviour, but did something happen that said, I've got to be in this?
Nothing particular, no. But I guess I was thinking about ideas of purpose and meaning. The environmental industry is obviously very, very important. But at the end of the day, me and my buddy, we were just really interested in outdoors and camping, and we were good at science. So that was kind of the criteria for choosing that line of work. Although the environment is very important, I guess I see people as being more important. So that took a few years to kind of realize and think, well, I love working. So if I'm going to work, I want to do something that ticks these boxes of purpose and meaning and helping people.
So really it was just about a fulfillment, lack of fulfillment to some degree, and being more the technical scientist playing that role as opposed to really wanting to help people out.
Yeah.
And that's pretty similar to me. I really woke up one day and said I wanted to help people all over the world become more self-empowered. And when I was hit with that question, that's what took me on this path to moving away from accountancy, taxation advice, helping people with their investments, and really wanting to be a facilitator and helping people, grow within themselves through self-awareness.
Yeah. Well, I really, people talk, you see it on social media, people being world changers and things like that. And it can sometimes be a bit of a throwaway kind of statement. But I really wanted to actually help people, not just have a bit of I'd love to, be a world changer one day. People say that, but not a lot of people are actually doing it. And not that I want to change the world, but if I can change someone's world, just very, just one person or one little family's world from barely, floating, just keeping your head above water to actually thriving, and I, really blessed. I get to do that every day, in some small way. And that's really wonderful. It's not just a pipe dream. It was a lot of work to get qualified as a therapist. So, you can't just wake up one day and decide to be a world changer. It has been a lot of work, but I can say happily, that I help people. I help people do the work themselves. Therapists don't tell people what to do. We don't give advice, but I'm part of the process, a small part of the process, to help people make meaningful change. And yeah, like I said, bit of a purpose, bit of a meaning element, kind of feel called to it, but I'm kind of questioning what that kind of term means these days, but definitely a purpose and meaning kind of element to it. Yeah.
So as you're helping the patient, if you want to call it that, or the client out.
Client.
Yeah, the client in making these changes in their life, and as you said, they've got to do it themselves. But have you got a process that you follow? Have you got the Tim unique formula? Is there something that you do that helps these people unlock themselves and in a way get out of their own struggle?
Yeah. No, really well put. The Tim unique formula. That's exactly how therapists should approach it. It should be a combination of, yes, science and psychology and evidence, but also who we are. So that's exactly right. So the Tim unique formula, and I guess the Tim unique formula is a combination of a few things. I guess the important ones are empathy. So that's really understanding someone and being able to experience in part what they might be experiencing. So really connecting, not just on a intellectual level, but connecting from a feelings and emotional level as well. So that's a big part of it, really understanding and being with the people that I talk to. I keep things relatively simple, I guess, in my approach, the Tim unique formula. So I'd ask questions like, what's worked in the past for you? And see what someone says. What are a few little steps that you could put together this week, to help make some changes or to help reach your goals. I very much focus on goals, my clients' goals. What are their goals? I don't tell them what my goals are for them. I want to uncover their goals. Yeah. So that's important. So yeah, empathy, keeping it simple, but making plans and kind of following through on them, making some commitments. Yeah. So I guess all that's probably the Tim unique formula. Yeah.
And is there, as you demonstrate that empathy to them and try and help in a way share the experience so that they can feel that what's going on in their life, because that's what I think somebody who's very good at empathy can do. They can feel it, but you're getting in there with questions, right? So is there any approach you have around how you ask questions so that you can get into their shoes quicker or more sensitively, with more feelings? Is there something that you do in that area?
Yeah. I guess I ask a lot about people's future, what they would like their life to look like.
Yeah.
Sometimes on a really like fantastical sense, if that's a word, like, you know, let's say a miracle happened overnight and all your problems were solved. What would life look like for you? So really get people to imagine their life just not being perfect, but being problem free or having less problems in it. So a little bit of hypothesizing about what their life might look like if things are fixed, if things were better. Yeah, so that's kind of one of the questions I like to ask. Because then a client can kind of think about who they are and who they want to be, and maybe there's a really big disconnect between those two, who they are and who they want to be. If there's a big disconnect, kind of distress lives in there, right? So we really want people to think about who they are, think about maybe a little bit of where they've come from, but we don't try and dwell on the past too much in short-term therapy. It is important, obviously. We don't just dismiss the importance of our past and our upbringing and our childhood experiences. Yeah, so we think a little bit about that, but where do they want to be in the future? You know, what does a life of purpose and meaning, what does a life that's better than the current one look like? And usually that's usually a question that can get people to do the little structured steps, small things each day to get there. Yeah.
So that's getting them into future thinking.
Future thinking. Yeah. Future thinking, planning, self-awareness, you know, what am I now? Who am I now? Where do I potentially want to be? But we definitely can't throw away who people are now. It's part of who they are. Yeah.
And when you're, you know, given that you probably get lots of different people, we all would in sitting in what you're doing. Even I get, lots of different people, that come before me. Do you, have a what I call a very consistent approach in how you work with each person?
Yeah. There is a fair bit of consistency. And a beautiful thing about therapy is that we have to go attend regular supervision, which is we meet with a more experienced therapist regularly to talk about our practice, how we do things, our client, our one-on-one interactions. And that process encourages us to reflect on what we've done and how we approach things, and should we try things differently. So as much as there is structure, and I'm quite a structured person, as you know from my profiling, there is an element of that, and I probably do default to that, but we also have to be reflective and adjust our words, adjust our practice, adjust some things, both in line with our clients' needs and our clients' presentation, like what they're saying to us and what we feel is happening in the room. So we adjust to some of those things as well. So it's very much, you very much need to grasp onto both of those concepts. Some formality, some legality, some structure, but then people say it's an art as well. Therapy is an art. So there's also that fluidity element. Yeah.
Because where I was going with that, as I was asking that question, was, are there situations where you're more confident as the social worker, the mental health specialist working with a client, than others? Are there situations you find easier, you feel better within yourself, you're having an impact? Other situations, they're just not in your bailiwick.
Yeah. I guess that's true. Yeah. So, look, like I said, we need to bring our personality and our who we are into therapy. So if someone has very similar values to me, then it's a bit of it's an easier process, because I can understand my summaries and my reflections on their life are really accurate because we have similar values. Yeah. So that's kind of a more comfortable situation for me. But I meet people from all walks of life with all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of choices they made in their life,
So from that part of it, it seems like you're happy working with really most people from that perspective. Do you find that if a client is not prepared to say think futuristically, that's harder for you to deal with, or are you able to navigate your way around that to get them to think futuristically?
Yeah, that's a bit of a block, and that could speak to a lot of things that are happening in someone's life. If they don't have that future focus and can't kind of make plans and imagine what they want their life to be like, and it's probably common in people with depression type symptoms, certainly. And yeah, it is a bit of a block, and would have to be gentle and not rush that person. Yeah.
So as a social worker, what would you say your standout talent is that you're better than everybody else at, or could be better than everybody else at if you practiced more?
I guess I'm a bit of an all-rounder, for the Australian and English of us.
For those who understand cricket, yeah.
For those that understand cricket, like I like to have lots of things in my tool bag and do lots of things well. That being said, I love writing a report. I love putting things on paper and being structured and following templates. I do a little bit of report writing because we also do fitness for work assessments. So we assess someone psychologically and determine whether they're okay to work and what things they might need to support them to going back to work. I love that part of my job because it's very structured and you end up with a nice little report that has recommendations and stuff like that. I put my hand up for lots of things. So being an all-rounder, being able to do most things and do most things pretty well is something that I definitely see that I do stand out in this business and in this career in general. Yeah.
Because I imagine that the report writing and writing up notes after a meeting with a client is very important. Not everybody likes to do that. And writing up those notes carefully, capturing the things that were said so that an employer would understand it if it needed to be read, or depending on the line there where it's private, but it needs to be read by someone, even if it's your reviewing body. And then also importantly, the client to know where they're at in the process with you and what was covered.
Yeah.
Because there will be other people that are looser than you, and in that way, and the client would never really know where they're at.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems that they would know where they're at on the journey with you because you're good at writing the report up. I imagine it's reasonably detailed and quite articulate, even though you like to keep the overall process simple. But that's a very important step and gift in this.
Yeah. I think getting to the report writing and the assessment part of this job, it was a real natural fit for me because as an environmental consultant, we poured over words, we tried to make everything succinct. So a combination of probably my natural traits, my career as a scientist and a consultant, particularly the consulting part of my job as an enviro, where everything had to be succinct and perfectly written. Like it's really been, and when I got to this role, people were like, well, how come Tim's, getting all this work? It's just a really natural fit. I had that report writing scientific experience, it was already there. It just, didn't need to learn how to write a good psychological report. I knew how to write. Yeah.
As I come back to a word you used at the start, which was empathy. If the client read your report, they're going to feel understood by you.
Yeah, hopefully.
Because of what you wrote, right?
Yeah.
Whereas dealing with if they've got a social worker that's not detailed like you, the client, they might feel, that was a great conversation, but they'll never really know whether the social worker understood them.
Yeah.
Whereas, empathy is not just in the spoken word, it's also in the written word, how the message is conveyed, that everybody leaves the place with a common understanding and feeling. And so I imagine and got the sense from this, the writing part is very critical to your success factor, your X factor in being a social worker.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a huge part of my job, but it's definitely very, very important. Yeah. And, if the least we can do is make someone feel heard and understood,
that's empathy.
No one feels bad after feeling understood, do they?
No, that's empathy.
Yeah.
So we started to touch on it. So let's get to the chase on this one. 4 years ago or so, you completed your business DNA discovery, and I'll just say it for our listeners' perspective, you came out as a reflective thinker. So why don't you just tell me a little bit about what you thought and how you felt when you got the report back, and what it's meant for you personally and then business wise.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know a lot about it before going into doing my profile, and my initial reactions were that this is wonderfully meaningful. Yeah, it was meaningful. It did point out things that I guess thought were part of who I am, but didn't know to which extent. So because I like to do well in my work, so I can adapt and I can add new skills. So I guess I was really pleased that it pointed out, like it's supposed to, my natural traits. And it made me feel like, well, this is me. I'm a competent person that can put on many hats, but I guess this is the crux of who I am, and I like that. I like who I am from a natural perspective. Yeah. And it did explain me well, I thought, because it had that balance between kind of risk taking, which was quite high, but also structure, planning, diligence, data. And I thought, well, that's a weird person, but it's not. It's me, right? Yeah.
No, there's nothing weird about it. There's a lot to love about having all of those traits. And for them to to be able to work together, because it's pretty clear in your work you're using that structure to good effect when you're working with a client. In terms of whether it's writing up the reports afterwards, keeping to a structure as you work through with them. They probably always know where they're at with you. So they're real strengths. What about from the problem solving side? Because you're also quite what I call logical and rational, and I know you bring a lot of empathy to the process, but there's also a logical side to you, and in a way sometimes a critical thinking part that comes through. So do you sit there when you're working with the client and you're thinking, okay, they're not telling me everything, and I need to find another way to uncover it in a sensitive way? What's going on there, perhaps, that might be? Because I think, just for our listeners to understand, there's a skeptical side to you, which some people look at as bad, but it's actually an extreme strength.
Skeptical and questioning.
You don't just have to believe what you're told, is to think about it and then ask the question the right way, right? Which you've been trained to do.
Yeah, exactly. No, that comes in so handy. Skeptical and questioning, and counselling training, the interpersonal work that we do. There's whole sections on questioning and how to ask the right questions, not in a prying way, but in a meaningful way for the client. And I guess people come to counselling expecting to be asked questions. So it's a really good fit. My skeptical, questioning nature is just a really great fit for counselling. So I can explore things kind of under the guise of, well, I need to ask questions here in counselling, but what I'm doing is trying to find out what can best help this person. What line of conversation will be most effective at improving this person's well-being. I guess there is the logic side of things can cause a challenge for me in that, one of the first things you learn in counselling is don't tell people what to do. We don't give direct advice. But being logical and results oriented, I definitely have to stop myself from saying, well, why don't you try this, 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 and this? Because I don't want to hear what I want them to try. We need to talk about what they want to try and how they're going to try it and when. So sometimes I need to put aside that logical, scientific, just try these things, results-oriented side of me, and default to that skeptical questioning, or tell me why that didn't work in the past, or tell me why that did work in the past. So it's putting aside some of my natural stuff and really using some of my other natural stuff in a really good way.
But you can guide them to come up with the solutions.
Exactly. Yes.
And
guide them. Yeah.
Guide them to come up with the solutions and still and then for them to own it.
Yep. Exactly. We want them to own it. Perfectly put, Hugh. Exactly. Yeah.
So if taking this forward, Tim, and I ask, so the big question: where do you see your biggest impact in the world? And that includes in your own life. You've got this unique set of talent. You love the work you do. Where do you see your greatest impact and how you stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, well, that's a tricky question right now. I've been thinking about it a lot and talking to my wife about that exact thing a lot. Getting to the age I'm getting to, I'm starting to think about, management and taking more formal leadership roles. But at the same time, I love my therapy. I love getting in the trenches, with my people and like I said, making a change every day, making an impact every day in someone's life. So look, it's a hard question for me to answer right now, but I do, I did this big marathon reskill effort, as I sometimes call it, to make a difference, whether that's individually in the micro in people's lives in therapy, or if I was to be involved for a big company like Shell or BHP, Anglo American, these big companies in a leadership, mental health, let me nurture the people. I mean, I'm also making a difference there, aren't I? Because let's say, I don't know, there's 50,000 BHP employees in Australia only, I don't know, 10,000, I'm not sure. Being able to nurture them would still be making a difference. So whatever way I look at it, I want to make a difference. What that looks like, I'm still figuring kind of that out. Yeah.
Sort of in a way, it comes down to: do you do the work one-on-one, or do you manage a team that's doing the work?
Yeah. And
to some degree, you would use your structured talents, analytical talents, processes to ensure that they all do it properly, and are highly accountable. And I suppose it's a question of which one of those do you feel is a stronger pull for you?
Yeah, I don't know yet. Yeah, and maybe that's a problem with being an all-rounder. We don't. Yeah.
No, I think that doesn't matter. I think the main thing is that you want to impact as many lives as you can through your work. But it seems like if the right opportunity came up, you'd have a good look at whether you can manage, be the leader that manages a process across a firm, so that whether the mental health issues are spotted quicker inside an organization, people feel comfortable to step forward and say, okay, I've got a problem. I think, you need systems inside businesses, in larger businesses like Shell or BP or BHP or whoever, for all that to happen. The larger an organization is, the more structure it needs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
To do all those things properly.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. No, it's exciting, and I've got a little family. I've got 2 boys, 10 and 4, and that they definitely play. They're a big factor of what I consider. So this year will be a year of thinking about it, about what my next kind of move might be. It's exciting, and it's a good problem to have, I have to say.
Yeah, but as you think about it, one of the things I've learned is that as your confidence grows in just in being the social worker, the clinician yourself, you'll start to see more and more about your own capabilities. Maybe even today something you will reflect on. And I think it's also important for people who are listening to this to understand you are a reflective thinker. You're not going to come out and announce the future in one go, but very clearly you are a leader. Everybody can be a leader. It doesn't matter what style they have. It's a matter of, do you want to step up and live outside yourself a little bit and guide others to do this process really well? I think that's what you're about. Is to see this kind of social work in a corporate environment done really well. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I do love the corporate environment. I love being in the CBD of cities in Australia and being involved in what's going on in the world. Yeah,
but you could change the whole working environment culture inside an organization by bringing this kind of work into that organization in the right way. And I'm not just talking about day-to-day team building type stuff. We're talking about people's deeper life issues, which can get in the way of their performance at work getting solved, them feeling comfortable. And even the CEOs and directors and managers all have these issues. It's
definitely. Yeah, that's true.
Inside the organization.
Life happens to everyone. That's true.
And people need to be given the space to deal with it. And often they just leave these companies because they don't feel understood by it, or it's got too much, and that's a tragic loss of human capital. At the end of the day. Well, Tim, it's been good spending time with you today, talking about this, and I really can see a great path for you in this because you love it. And want to do it really well, and see this kind of service expanded across more employer organizations. So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. And it's great. Yeah, I took the leap earlier on, and I think wherever I land now is going to be. I did the hard work by taking the leap. So wherever I end, like back doing my reskilling process, and
guess what? There'll be more leaps that you take too.
That's right.
But you know that you've got a meal ticket because you can do this one-on-one, or you can do it inside a corporate leading many, and it'll just be a matter of what you want to do. And I think that's a fantastic place to be in life and to have those options. And that's the best thing that anybody could ask for.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. Yeah.
The rest you'll go manifest as you play the futuristic card yourself on what your own long-term goals are.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, think about the future. Yeah.
All right, Tim. Well, I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Hugh. Really appreciate it. Really, really good chat.